Well, welcome on in to another edition of The Voice of Land right here on the Big Play Network, partner with LPD Productions and brought to you by our friends over at Greeny Sports Cards. Get all the information on them at greenysportscards.com. More coming up on some of their shows that they have coming up. They have a sold out show this coming Saturday, and of course, all of their Kirtland shows at the Kirtland Senior Center once a month. They just had one just last weekend, and it was absolutely packed with all of this weather that has been just messing everything up. I don't know if I sound good tonight. I really don't care. I feel fine. It is just this weather, Ryan. It is a nightmare. And I get that this is Northeast Ohio. This is what happens, but we haven't had a winter like this in a while, where it's kind of like it smacks you back to back to back, and the cold air just doesn't. That Arctic chill, the Arctic
Right.
blast just doesn't go away. That's what's really messing me up, and having to shovel so many times just on Sunday alone because the snow just kept on coming and
Right.
coming and coming. It wouldn't stop, and that usually doesn't happen in, at least where I'm at in Lake County. That's usually where you get further east into Lake County and then south into Jogga County, like Chardon and those places, especially with the lake frozen over.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's I live out in the country. I live like a mile away from anyone in any direction, and I get snow drifts, and it's terrible. And I traded my Jeep in for a minivan, and it's front wheel drive, and it's not fun to drive in the snow at all. So it's just not. I'm not having a good time. I'm tired of the cold, and I want to go hunt for mushrooms in the spring now. So yeah,
So yeah, it is an absolute nightmare right now, weather wise, and it doesn't make you feel much better. And with everything going on, if you're all into what the Browns are doing, like, it doesn't make you feel any better. But what
Right.
should make you feel better is, the Cavs get started again tomorrow night, and in their second half, they have 28 games left. They have a gauntlet coming out into the month of February. And by the time next Friday comes, they'll be in Boston playing the fourth of, I think, their four matchups this season in
Right.
Boston. Do want to mention, of course, our buddy Always Positive Jay, not with us tonight. The technical term is on assignment. That's not how we do things. We pull back the curtain. I could pull back the green screen that you see with the. Oh wait, no, we're actually
Yep.
seated
Right.
with the Cleveland skyline right behind us.
Yep.
But we pull back the curtain on everything. He's already tweeted it, so it's not like it's just any sort of secret or anything. But migraines, man.
The worst.
My wife has been dealing with them recently, and then she fell on the ice and got a concussion. Luckily, she's doing better
Oh, wow.
now. But we've seen the effects of it, and Jay, I know he texted us that he tried to take a nap, had a headache for a couple days, and then all of a sudden wakes up with the migraine. And boy, lights,
Yeah, I don't blame him.
loud noises, like that's not, migraines are not something to mess
Nope.
with. You break a bone, yes, it hurts, but like, you put a cast on it and it heals. But it's like those soft tissue things where it takes a while to heal. Like migraines that just keep coming and going and coming and going.
Yeah.
Not something to mess with. You don't mess with anything with the head or anything like that. So we're wishing him all the best. But he does have an event. Make sure you follow at Always Positive J on Twitter
Yep.
and social media. He has an event at the West Bank Golf Club, a Cavs watch party, trying to get some guests. He'll have more details by next week. He's trying to hone in on what's going to be donated to be raffled off. All the proceeds going to the victims of the LA fires and what we've kind of seen as of late in our world, and just for a great cause, just getting a bunch of people together to watch the team that is excelling here in town. And again, for a great cause. And that's what Jay tries to do. That's what
Yep.
people like Ricconia try to do. And Jay's kind of taken after his model. So please keep an eye out for more details on the Cavs watch along at the West Bank Golf Club in the Flats in downtown Cleveland. Follow at Always Positive J. He's not with us tonight. I'm Kevin Arnold. He is Ryan Mosser to my right, but on the screen, as I look off in the distance, is always flip flopped as the return feed kind of comes back and forth. Always throws me off. Ryan, we did see news about the Cavs, and we'll get into, the buyout market is starting to pick up. That will end by March 1st, so by
Right.
next Saturday. Javonte Green of the Pelicans, another wing, has some length, a defender, maybe I wouldn't say a 3-point shooter because he's only averaging about 6 points a game, but they want to try to get length on the wings because they have to defend teams like Boston and stuff. We'll talk about them in just a second.
Yep.
I think the thing that's dominating a lot of the conversation is not where we always start. because this team just frustrates the heck out of you. And talking about them can be. Sports is supposed to be an escape, and talking Browns is not great. But there's been this connection with Shedeur Sanders, and now everybody's trying to come up with their conspiracy theories on what Shedeur and his dad are trying to do to make sure he's drafted higher than his dad was in the first round and be one of the first picks taken, if not the first pick taken. And people are saying that they're using the Browns as leverage. Where do you come out on all of that? And like this smoke that's been around Shedeur Sanders, and if you believe that who he plays with on Madden is going to determine where he goes in the draft, boy, oh boy, God bless you, because you're the most positive person I've ever seen in my life.
No, yeah, that's all marketing. They're just, I mean, the fact that, I mean, his dad was drafted 5th overall. He wants to be a top 4 just to beat that. I mean, they're going to do all they can and say all they can to make themselves, hey, I want to be a Brown. I think Deion tweeted not too long ago, maybe a year ago, maybe before that he'll never play for the Browns. No, I think it was a couple of years ago, and Browns have brought that up recently, but now they're kind of like, taking a back seat and, really pushing off that and going towards I could play for myself with the Browns. I play with Madden with the Browns. I personally, I don't want a quarterback at 2. I've said it 100 times. I mean, I understand what like people like Nathan Zagura saying, where, you need to get your guy. But for me, it's all about value, and I don't see the value. I don't see a huge difference between the top 2 guys and the 3rd and 4th guys, Will Howard, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, maybe not too much him, but I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I don't think we should reach up. I think either trade back or just try to find the best player available, and try to get a veteran or free agent to come to Cleveland and play for, a small contract. But.
And I wouldn't say I'm all in on taking a quarterback at 2. I'm in at taking a quarterback at 2 if you've done the actual due diligence. They say they do their due diligence, and then we get to whoever they pick. And I know they haven't had a first round pick and haven't been able to pick the best of the best for a while, but if you do your due diligence and you're liking, if not loving, one of these 2 guys, but then you decide to overthink it and say, well, the value isn't there. Like, I know what you're saying by value and what in your evaluation, and we'll get to your Ryan's Diamond of the night here in just a little bit, a player to look out for, whether the Browns take him or someone else does, just a name to look out for in the NFL, especially for you fantasy football players. If they are in one of those positions, we'll see what Ryan has cooked up. He doesn't even tell me until we get to this point. And I actually kind of like that, because I like to react genuinely to what happens here on the show and what news kind of comes up. But I am there with taking a quarterback if you love them. And like, again, analytics now telling you to overthink it, and it doesn't value that. Now you can, what your football mind tells you is there's a bigger gap between these top 2 and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and the next group of quarterbacks, yet analytics and the puppet master behind all these things, which I still think he is, and he yet doesn't do anything out in San Diego. Right. Paul DePodesta, I've said for many years I want him to go. As a baseball person myself, I understand the impact that he had on baseball. But did he win much with the Moneyball in Oakland? No. Did not win anything. And that's a baseball person trying to do football. When football uses analytics to push information forward, it is not the main basis of what you're doing. It matters in baseball. It doesn't matter as much in football. Let your football mind determine what you're going to do on the football side of things.
Right. And you say, like, you want them to do the due diligence, and if that's the guy, like, for me, I find Andrew Berry incompetent. So I don't trust Andrew Berry to do the due diligence to make the pick. So I feel like it's a major risk to take a quarterback at 2. I mean, if I was him and I wanted to keep my job, I would find a way to trade back, stack up some draft picks, get some decent players, and continue. Find a quarterback, find a bridge, and continue. And I hate to say push it back till next year, but like it's just either he's wrong because he takes, he's wrong because he doesn't take Sanders, and Sanders, ends up being the stud, or take Sanders and Sanders sucks. And I just. I personally don't think he's worth the second overall pick. I would take him 10, but not at 2. It's way too valuable for me.
And again, I totally understand that, and that this isn't going to be a debate on whether to take the QB. Like, yes, you
Right.
said people like Nathan Zegura and in a way that they're right. It's just we don't trust the people that are making the choice to have that quarterback be right, and
Right.
so like that's where this flip flopping comes about, and we're going to all flip flop until that point. So it's not opinions. They're meant to change people. Like they're not fact. And I try not to tell people how to feel, how to fan, all of that kind of stuff. I'm just here to caution all of you. Don't get wrapped up in, oh, well, here's another video of Shedeur Sanders saying the Browns and he's only playing with them on Madden. That doesn't determine whether they're going to play here or not. Now, does it mean that he's not going to be drafted here? No, it doesn't mean it one way or the other. If they're trying to play a game right now, like that's exactly why people have pulled back from Shedeur Sanders, because the game is being masterminded by his dad, and as great of a football player and now a football coach where he's turned around programs that you wouldn't think could be turned around. As great of a football mind as he is, he's also a dad, and he's also primetime, and his son's been in the spotlight. He's been in the spotlight, and his dad's going to try to push him further into the spotlight when, it feels like Shedeur is trying to carve out his own path. He's not trying to, and he's not playing the same position, one, and number two, he's trying to develop his own limelight because of the work that he does and the type of football player that he is. That is all. And again, people are up in arms today because the national media is laughing at the Browns. I don't always get upset when the national media laughs at the Browns. Part of that is because there is always the select few that have somehow a louder voice than others that are the delusional, the lunatic fringe was what they called the Ohio State fan base, or Kirk Herbstreit called the Ohio State fan base. Well, there's a lunatic fringe in all fan bases. And for some, that lunatic fringe becomes more the representation than the actual fan base and how down to earth and grounded they are and what they're thinking about their team. We all love them. We're all fanatics about our team, but the lunatic fringe takes it further. Right. And when the lunatic fringe gets a big platform to make fun of the team, you can't get upset when the national media now does the same thing. I get it. They're not from here, all of that. And I've been upset myself. When I get upset is when you put the word, when you just say Cleveland and you take a shot at the city. We didn't do any of this. And I could drop some S-bombs or whatever right now. That's not what this show does. But we didn't cause any of this crap. It has been all the different iterations of this organization and this front office. And yet every time a new regime comes in, they say, we're not worried about the past. We're trying to make the Browns what they're supposed to be. And it's a football town. And, football was invented an hour down the road. They're just saying that. When I say that, I actually mean that. And that is why football should be good in this town. It was invented an hour south in Canton, Ohio, where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is, where the team of teams exists with the bust of all the players that have been inducted to that point. You can debate who should have been and who shouldn't have been in, but they are in the best team of all time in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, an hour south. This is a football town. Yep. And as much as I'll try to fight against it because the basketball organization operates way better and the ownership operates way better. The baseball organization, they operate way better. Does the ownership always operate way better? Not necessarily, but there's a reason why baseball is starting to actually talk about a salary cap when nobody thought that conversation would even come up in collective bargaining agreements, because of what the Dodgers are able to do and how many guys they're able to get versus what other teams that are good consistently year in and year out, or at least have a chance to be good year in and year out, but just can't contend for the best players, and the best players end up going to those teams. That's a whole different conversation, but it's still a team, Ryan, that is operated correctly. It doesn't matter what the names are in Berea. It just seems like there is this You walk in the door and there's this bravado that just rushes over you that I'm smarter than everybody else. I'm going to do things nobody's ever heard of before because it's going to work. And it just leads to the same result over and over again.
Yeah, it's the definition of insanity, man. It's just, and then we're us as Brown fans, dude. Here's our money, here's our our time, our passion, and it's just we get slapped in the face, and they don't care because we'll just keep giving our money because we're the best fan base in all the sports, So
yeah, it's because brown and orange, we're raised raised to bleed brown and orange, and at some point. Again, I don't know what the answer is. Jay has given up his season tickets. Other people have done that. There's been a parade that was supposed to be a protest when there was 0-16, and did things turn around a little bit from that point? Yes, but it hasn't fully taken hold, especially all the way at the top with the Haslams, that winning football matters here. Great football matters here. And you don't just get the one-off season and then get to ride off in the limelight and then throw this shade over everybody with this, oh my gosh, this great facility that we can build in Brook Park. And this is how we're going to fund it. And, we're going to keep bringing out information about the stadium so that you don't talk about how bad the football team is or went in 2024 and what could possibly happen moving forward of possible all the way down to the studs rebuild. You don't get to just throw that in people's face and then think that everything's okay. Some people are gonna take that. They're gonna take the bait, and that's why nothing continues to change. But right here, we're going to be pounding the table, and there's plenty of other places that are going to be pounding the table. I don't want to do that because the table might break right now. This might be a WWE table where it's meant to break. I don't know. I don't know what Peter's got going on in here with his wrestling show. So. Those guys get intense, and as a wrestling fan, I do too. What I'm saying is, you can't just blind people with this stadium thing. There's a real problem going on, and no one has answered to it. Since Andrew Berry talked before this trade request for Myles Garrett, nobody has said anything. And I don't find that acceptable to just wait until the owners' meeting or, the combine where you are scheduled to talk anyways and you have to talk. And then you go off the stage and you talk to the local media because you have to do it. Good organizations, great organizations try to get out in front of these things. And there's more response to it. We just heard from Diana Rossini as we were kind of coming on here. She was talking with the Rich Eisen show and saying, Browns are getting offers from Myles Garrett. They're telling teams we're not trading him. But then she added that she's being told that their other teams are hearing we're not trading him for now instead of we're not trading him ever.
Right.
Boy, oh boy, those two words for now really, if you don't want to trade Myles Garrett, that's not going to sit well with you. If you do want to trade Myles Garrett, you might be thinking we're going to get those assets you want to get before the draft, and then you can draft all these great players. The more assets this team has, the worse I feel like we're going to do. The worse I feel like we're going to pick, the more opportunities they have to screw up, the more opportunities they are going to screw up. And again, for me, I think I hear the words for now, because, if they're trying to be like this overly smart team, like this negotiation tactic, they're trying to ask for the world and they're trying to get a deal that they'll never get. I still think that they're holding firm that they're not going to trade Myles Garrett.
Well, I think the for now also, the cap hit significantly goes down. Well, it goes down a bit June 1st. So, yeah. They're not going to trade him before that regardless. So for now could just mean till then.
Because analytics tells you not to do those things. Even if you could get more draft assets moving forward and get more young talent, because you try to run it back with a bunch of retreads that did not perform, veterans that did not perform to the same level they did in 2023 and, kind of came in and got their money for a year. And I'm not saying anybody gave up or they weren't trying, but it felt like there was something that was blocking this team from even thinking about competing at the NFL level when Kevin Stefanski's trying to push that forward. And I know you don't like him and you want him fired. A lot of people wanted him and Andrew Berry fired. I'm not saying I did.
I just want him to do better. If he doesn't do better, I want him to be replaced.
Yeah. And then we're back. And I was driving in and I heard that conversation. Like, people already talking about 2026.
Wow.
That is where your football team is. Talking about 2026 and the possibility of your GM and your coach being fired, still that we had that same conversation throughout the 2024 season. We're having that before 2025 really even gets going, let alone get the 2025 season up and running in September. We're already having these conversations. We're just, again, insanity. True definition of insanity is being a Browns fan and just staying on this hamster wheel. It doesn't take you anywhere.
It's draft season, though, man.
It is draft
I'm
season.
About that. That's what,
and that's exactly where I was going.
That's my
next.
Super Bowl. So
that is your Super Bowl, and you have a sheet of paper that is completely filled out on both sides. And I'm dying to know, who is that player you want to talk about tonight that it could either impact a team like the Cleveland Browns or an NFL, one of the other 31 NFL teams, a name that we should be looking at heading into the 2025 NFL draft happening late April in Green Bay.
Yeah. So the first one I had a receiver. I remember Savion Williams, the TCU receiver. Second one I had was Logan Brown, the offensive tackle from Kansas. This guy's name is RJ Harvey. He's a running back out of UCF. 5'9", 208, runs a 4.4 140. So he's not very tall, but is just a wrecking ball. He's a former high school quarterback. He took over his team as a sophomore. They were 0-10, and by his senior year, he took his team to the state semifinals at 5'9", 208. So just a crazy athlete. Went to Virginia, ended up redshirting, and then transferring over to UCF. In 2022, he has all ACC honors. 2023, he had 1,416 yards and 16 touchdowns. And he had over 1,000 of those in the last 8 games, which is crazy numbers, about 130 yards per game. 2024, he did even better. He had 1,577 yards and 22 touchdowns. He's just a crazy athlete. His lateral quickness and jump cuts were the first things that jumped out to me. They're just incredible. He's so fast. He's shifty, swift. I don't know what you want to call it, but just like he's there and then he's not there, you know? He's really difficult to tackle one-on-one as well. He's so fast. He has exceptional acceleration and really, really good contact balance as well. Runs with the low pad level and has really good advanced vision and patience. Really good natural hands out of the backfield too. This guy's just a dynamic athlete. He's a true third down back, and he can handle a heavy workload. He had 579 attempts in his 3 years and almost 4,000 yards. So he's a little freaking firecracker, you know. And he's just a big play threat at all times. The negatives, his 5'9", obviously he's undersized, which I can't, which could be concerning in the NFL, obviously, with durability issues. He hasn't done much behind the line of scrimmage. He tends to dance a lot. So if you know, he's very patient, but he sometimes can be too patient, which is a problem. He just needs to hit the hole and go.
Yeah, we've seen running backs like that.
Right.
That you know they just can't get out of their own way once they get to that top level. Yeah.
He but once he hits that hole and he goes, he's just so fast, so good. His frame is my question, my issue. But like with recent success in the NFL with running backs with that frame, I mean, Devin Achane is a 5'9" running back and about 30 pounds lighter than him, actually. And he's succeeding in Miami. James Cook, Kyron Williams, Devin Singletary, all guys are 5'9" and way less than this guy. So he hasn't had any injury concerns or anything. There's just a little bit of durability issue. I think it's going to be a 4th-round pick, and I think he probably, even though he can take on the workload, with his size, he'll probably be that RB2, but he's going to be the guy that can take it to the house anytime. I think he's going to be really good for best ball if you do fantasy football. Eventually, maybe he could work his way into a starting role, but he's going to be incredibly exciting.
And here's the thing. I mean, if you can play and you're willing to be coached, like size in that kind of circumstance, you know, size of the running back, size of the frame is not going to matter because, and you gave the examples of players. It's not because it's because they are talented, but they're willing to be coached at the next level. When things do pick up speed and you're not going to have, you're going to have much better competition, especially at UCF. Now, UCF has been a program that, you know, has been on the national stage the last few years and definitely had the competition that you want to see, but not as much as you're going to see at, you know, just at Ohio State or Alabama, like places like that. And it's not to say that they can't play. Like, if you can play, they will find you.
Yep.
They once said with the Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. Well, if you are a player that can play football, the NFL will find you. It doesn't matter if you were D1, D2, D3. We've seen people from like colleges like Ashland be picked up and have success
Jamie
in the
Meter,
NFL. And, it's about what you're willing to do, what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to sacrifice to make that dream an actual reality. You're going to hear a lot of players say that. Not all of them are going to have success because they're not willing to actually act on it. And that is what these meetings coming up next week at the Combine with these players is going to be all about. You can talk about and have all the sound clips you want from the quarterbacks, the top players in the first round. You know what really gets me like excited during the draft? It's not even just about like who the Browns select. It's day 2, late day 2, and even into day 3, especially on NFL Network, when they show you all the picks and they got all these stories. Yeah. And it's great where they're, okay, I'm sure they're going to have a pick being selected in Brazil, in their NFL community there, and in Australia, because they're going to play, the NFL is going to play a game in Australia in 2026. That's all the pageantry. That's all the glitz and the glam that the NFL is going to put on. But it's the stories behind some of these players and seeing, that 4th or 5th round guy, or even sometimes you see the videos of the undrafted free agent that has that call with the team and they right. sign on, and then you hear that name and they become something in the NFL because you saw that in that moment, what that meant to them. And that was only just the start of their journey. It wasn't the end all be all that, hey, I'm selected first round. I'm going to get this much money because all the money thing is all set. And, I think that I'm automatically going to get that second contract and have all the, that's not the right mindset to have. It's about when you get drafted, that's the start of your story. It's not you finishing the story. It's the start of the story. It's on you now to go finish your story and have a long productive career, however you do that. And if you're on special teams and that's how you make your hay and you get signed by a bunch of teams, there's a guy that is on radio in this town that won 3 Super Bowls doing just that, in Gerard Cherry. And he worked his way through a bunch of organizations to get to the New England Patriots and continue to put in that work. And he took what he did on special teams very seriously. And you hear him talk about that all the time. And then that's how you get noticed to get those other opportunities on offense and defense. Thank you so much, Ryan. We'd love to hear these stories, and we're going to keep these going. Ryan's Diamond.
Every week we'll do one.
Yep, absolutely. Ryan's Diamond here on the Voice of the Land. Before we switch gears into some of the other sports, you got to make sure we talk about our friends over at Greeny Sports Cards. And they just had their show over at Kirtland. Believe they have a sold-out show coming up this weekend. And I'm just trying to make sure I get the right thing, but they're always live every Tuesday at 7:00. They had Cammie Justice. I mean, that's one of the best people you can talk to in sports broadcasting right now, in Cameron Justice. And she's had some great stories. It's her. It's someone like Hayden Grove, who's now on The Voice.
Crazy, yeah.
On Team Adam.
Super talented, man.
What a moment for him, by the way. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, yeah.
The episode of The Voice with him on there, but what a moment. And it he has that connection, and everybody thought that Michael Bublé was going to take him on his team, and they kind of sing a similar way.
Right.
But you heard Bublé and his like passion for that old style music and singing it that way instead of the new age of adding in some of these new vibrato and new styles of music into that old style. And then they had that moment up on the stage where, he's still willing to coach him and do that. So that Hayden has already made an impact on a guy like Adam Lambert to venture into that type of music and try to coach him up. Plus Bublé still has his back.
Super
and,
cool. Super cool.
You could see him being, I know that there's a chance for coaches to steal people onto their teams if they're kind of maybe on that bubble in the battle rounds and stuff like that. But coming up this Saturday, February 22nd, I believe it is sold out, but you can go and attend this Broadview Heights, the Broadview Heights show this weekend. There's going to be a Cleveland Charge ticket giveaway.
Nice.
I've wanted to get to a game because those scenes in the public auditorium just look like so unique, so fun.
I haven't been there. I went to a lot of Canton Charge games, but I need to get out to Cleveland. So.
Yeah, because like it just looks like such a cool and intimate setting. So they have a chance for that. There's gonna be Pokemon cards. They got signed football. So yes, trading cards is the biggest, and cards are the biggest thing that they do, but there's also all sorts of other memorabilia. It is going to be at the Woodside Event Center at St. Michael's, 5025 East Mill Road, Broadview Heights, Ohio, 44147. Get to greensportscards.com for all the details on that. They do such a great job, and like I said, they're always live on Tuesdays. They got eBay auctions going on with great items, and the stories they get to tell, especially with the NIL connections that they have. One of
Really
the best
cool.
players in college basketball. I'm talking about college basketball. Her name is Hannah Hidalgo for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. She has an NIL deal with Greeny Sports Cards, and they've been out to some of her games and just the impact that she's having on the game of basketball, and Greeny Sports Cards connecting with her to spread her message and vice versa is so great to see. Speaking of basketball, a couple of things I wanted to get into real quick with you, Ryan. Of course, All-Star Weekend we just had. And it feels like All-Star Weekend is dying, because I got to admit, as a pure basketball fan, I watched more of SNL 50 on Sunday night than I did of the All-Star tournament. And I tried to give it a chance, but every time I hit the back button, I finally figured out how to, do that quick back to the other channel you're watching on YouTube TV. Finally figured that out, because somehow my son, who's 21 months old, has figured it out, but like I don't think he actually knows he's doing it. We finally figured out what button he was pushing. Every time I go back to the basketball, there'd be a commercial going. And as soon as I hit the back button, SNL 50, they're already coming back with another skit and great characters that were coming back, plus adding in with the new cast and all of that. I absolutely loved watching SNL 50, and I had a great night watching that on Sunday. Basketball, I couldn't even bring myself to do it.
Yeah, I could not be less interested in the All-Star game. I feel like it's a farce now. Such a joke, and it has been for the last few years. It used to be like the Super Bowl in the NBA. It used to celebrities used to fly in, big names out in the court, and it just like now you have like Mac McClung winning the a guy who's not even really in the NBA. He's on he's not on an NBA team, winning the 3-time dunk champion in a row. It's not what I came to want to watch. I don't want to watch it. I mean, the skills tournament was kind of cool seeing
Donovan
represent
and Evan win, but I mean, what a bad luck for the NBA to like have one of your standard bearers in Chris Paul teamed up with who you hope can become one of the best players in one of the faces of your league in the future. Foreign-born player in Victor Wembanyama, just making a joke of the skills competition to get the fastest time. Like I know you don't have to make one of the 3 shots, but to do that, and what Victor is saying that he was the one that came up with that idea, there is no absolute way that Victor did that, because Chris Paul just threw the balls off the rack. He didn't it wouldn't even get anywhere near the hoop. Victor at least like threw it and it got to the hoop. Now maybe that's because he's so tall and he's already close to that level. A few of them almost accidentally went in. But that was an absolute joke to start the night. But I was calling the crunch, got to shut them out for boy, oh boy, another shootout overtime game against the Toronto Crusaders from Canada. So watching that, but NBA had already posted. They quickly turn it around, put it up on their YouTube channel the whole night. So want to make sure I caught up, because I had a host on the radio station the next morning. Had to know what happened. So I'm going through, and I love to seeing Donovan and Evan win again. Cavs representing every time they're putting that skills challenge. It seems like they're winning now. Over the last few years, 3-point contest is always good. I think for Darius Garland, I loved his first round. I loved his pace to the event.
6 points. Him and Mobley both tied for the most with Hero for 6 points on the team.
So I loved the approach of Garland. I just think what's tough about that event, if you go early and you set a good score early, you have to wait through the other guys in your section before the TV timeout. Then the next 4 guys, a TV timeout, some pageantry, maybe another TV timeout, or you get to the final with the 3 guys and you're one of the last guys. Like you don't get to go first either. So it's not really an excuse, but you're not in that same rhythm. And that's not a natural thing to do, because he had to work on taking the ball at the rack and shooting it, what they're doing in shoot around and in practice. What are the videos you see on Twitter all the time?
Yep.
Guys underneath the hoop, equipment managers, whatever, they're under the hoop, rebounding, kicking it out, and catch and shoot and working on that type of thing. Or pass it out. You take a couple dribbles, you work on like that in and out dribble,
Right.
and take a shot. So
It'd
it's
be much
not a
better,
natural
actually, with the
thing.
pass, I think you're right. I never even thought of that, but that's a different shot than
Yeah.
just catching and shooting it for sure. I think it's
And if you can shoot, you're going to have success. And Garland still had success in
right.
that event. I mean, look, I think it was Buddy Hield put up 31 in the first round, and he was still relatively fresh, and it was still Tyler Hero with 24 that won in the final. But that's pretty much the highlight of
Right.
Saturday night. Again, I always watch Saturday night, and when you get to the dunk contest, you're just hoping for a surprise night like Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine going at it. You kind of had it. I give Mac McClung a lot of credit. I know people just want to say, well, he's using so many props and it's, the other guy should have won because he was doing individual things. Look, if you can jump over an actual car, and this isn't Blake Griffin jumping over the hood.
Yep.
This is jumping over a person sticking out of the top of a car and being able to contort your body and turn and just the types of things he's able to do. Like, a showcase of him and some of these professional dunkers out there.
Sure. Don't get me wrong. It was very impressive, but I'm not going to go see Mac McClung. Let me see Giannis go do the dunk contest. Let me see LeBron do the freaking dunk contest. Like what? You want the NBA to be exciting. You want the All-Star game to be exciting. Make your best players do the fun things. I mean, or at least maybe not make them, but I mean, LeBron didn't even play the game, and it was 30 minutes before the game started. He said, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to play tonight." Like, what is that? That's bullcrap.
Yeah, that type of stuff is not a good look because he knew coming in his ankle was feeling, and he might not even play in their first game. I don't know if they're playing tonight or tomorrow with the Lakers, but he's questionable to even play with that because he is dealing with some ankle soreness, and he had to carry that load until Luka could come in after Anthony Davis was taken out. And LeBron's had to carry most of the load since those two got together anyways.
Right.
Because Anthony Davis, first game with the Dallas Mavericks, he's out hurt
for a month, I think. Yeah.
So the walking injury that Anthony Davis is, LeBron has carried so much of the load out there in LA. Now they have definitely a shot with Luka, and once LeBron gets healthy, but again, it's a bad look. And yes, he's part of the reason, and one of the criticisms I have for the guy that I consider the greatest of all time and a role model and idol. I had his poster up my wall. I had 7 jerseys the first time he was here. I have like 4 or 5 from the last time he was here. Still can't find the 7. They're hidden somewhere. I'm gonna one of these days, man. One of these days, I'm gonna find all those LeBron jerseys I had. But one of the criticisms I have, and it's fair, is he killed the dunk contest because he wouldn't do it. I understand why, but also it's kind of a criticism why he wouldn't do it because I think he was afraid of losing it. And part of it is I think he's just an in-game dunker too.
Sure.
I think LeBron's an in-game dunker. I don't think he has the creative bone in his body. When I watched his high school dunk contest, McDonald's All-American game, Ryan, I mean, he won because he was jumping higher than everybody else. He wasn't doing it. Like, even
but
then,
he could hire somebody to come up with dunks for him. He's one of the most naturally gifted people in the world. He can do any dunk. I'm certain of it. And I want to see him freaking do it. I want to see him do it.
Remember that video that came out of him doing his own little dunk contest when he was with Miami? I think they were playing Phoenix, and it was in like a practice. He was like throwing the ball off
I do super high,
crazy. Throwing the ball off a wall that was so far away from the hoop, and doing all these things. Like, again, you can't do that in an arena, but there's elements of it at that time when he was at the peak of his career. And he still has barely lost a step. I mean, he's 26, 8, and 8 a night.
I mean, you go from a dying spectacle to must-see TV instantly.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer to me. But I mean, I don't know.
So All-Star Weekend. I mean, I would say SNL 50 definitely. I would venture to guess more people may have watched that than the actual All-Star game and celebrity. Even like as a deep-rooted NBA and basketball fan, I am at the point of like something drastic needs to happen or it just needs to go away. And you just have just like an all-pro status in the NFL, like you have that moniker and you're listed as all-star caliber or whatever, but like the events just don't.
Well, if the players would take it seriously as well, that
Yeah.
would be. I mean, they don't, and it's a fun little exhibition where they can throw up half
Mhm.
court shots, and that's not fun. I mean,
One way, I mean, I don't know that the NBA would do it, and how much money it would take, but
Right.
one on one, like the women did in the Unrivaled, like boy, oh boy, was that appointment viewing with some of the best women in the game going one on one against each other, and I think it was Nafisha Collier that ended up winning it. Like WNBA is setting the standard, and I think it's Rob Parker from Fox Sports, used to be on ESPN.
Okay.
I really have some choice words that I want to tell you, but I'm not going to. The fact that he said that Caitlin Clark is the only reason that the NBA All-Star Weekend was ruined because she wouldn't go do a 3-point contest, because she chooses to do the first ever 3-point contest whenever she decides to do it. I think Indianapolis, I could be wrong. I'm shooting from the hip here, and that's not something you should do in this business, but my phone is it's running real slow right now. So that would be the worst viewing if you can on YouTube or the live stream right now of me trying to look this up. But she wants to do the 3-point contest at WNBA All-Star Weekend when it's in Indianapolis, the city that drafted her, the city that she is now calling home. Like she wants to, because she knows it's going to be appointment viewing, and it's going to then also put a spotlight on everybody else that's involved, even more so than it is right now, and it should be. And the WNBA is reportedly coming back with the Rockers coming back.
Yeah.
Are you okay with the name Rockers coming back?
Yeah, I mean, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, it's the Rock and Roll City. Yeah, why not?
I know some people
historical name. So.
Some people get upset when we use the guitar, and I think the guitar element, the rock and roll element, gets overused because that's not the only thing that we have. It's a great thing that we have. And as someone that was raised on classic rock and roll, like the Doors, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, The Who, like all those types of bands, and seeing like how that music came from stuff of the years before and how that's influenced the music of years after and even into today. I love that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is here, and I love going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Can't wait to see what the renovations that they're doing right now and the additions they're making, how that adds to the greatness of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I even say that you overutilize the guitar element. But the Rockers, I think, should come back. People are trying to like rename them, different colors, all of that stuff. No, like we've asked for that to come back, and it's only right as one of the original franchises in the WNBA come back as the Rockers. And I think that's what Dan Gilbert and his group wants to do is to bring that back, but take it to the next level, because there's reports with that new training facility right there down along the river for the Cavs. Then the WNBA team would train in Independence, and he would even make improvements to that building. It's not like they're just doing what is right there. You're going to get the latest in technology, body maintainment and physios from the best places in all of the world taking care of you. Like Dan Gilbert's going to take care of it, and he's going to make sure his group takes care of that team when they officially rejoin the WNBA.
I find it fascinating too that they spent $250 million just to get the expansion to Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
When I was looking up like just the valuations of each team, that's significantly more than any team is valued right now. So the evaluation of $250 million just to buy in, I'm thinking it's like $60 million more than the top team is worth, which is really interesting to me. And a lot of people are wondering if that's really a great investment with the, I mean, I'm a fan of. I actually became a fan of the WNBA with Caitlin Clark. I was not really involved, but her shooting was dynamic, and I was enthralled, and just as many of us were. And I've been following here and there, and I'm excited. I for one will be cheering on a WNBA team. Why not? Like this is another team to watch, another team to. I love sports. I love Cleveland. I will. I want to follow anyone who represents. I'm getting into the crunch more, which is pretty cool. I'm not a fan of soccer. I'm going to my first hockey game with the Monsters. I'm really trying to get involved and, start being a fan of all these little teams. And I'm excited for this WNBA team. I find it really interesting that he spent that much money when, I don't know if that evaluation is what it'll be in the future, or if he just paid that and then now he's got to spend all this money to start the team as well. But
I mean, and we've seen that Dan's willing to write the checks,
and I think that's really cool. And I think some other owners in the city need to, he leads by example, and they need to follow. And it's unfortunate that they don't. But wow, that's a lot of money.
And Dan's a guy that learned about being an overly involved owner. And now I know that some of his health issues and
Right.
the unfortunate loss of Nick Gilbert,
Nick,
they're going to
yeah.
have that bow tie night again coming up here soon
Really cool.
at Rocket Arena. They did change
Yeah.
it. I get people don't like that it keeps changing. The company is like they're doing so well that things are all like coming together. They're putting all like the mortgages and the individual loans and all that like under one umbrella. Like it's just a company expanding, and then they're just making sure that the company that has the naming rights of the arena are properly represented. I
Right.
get it's happening a little faster than and change the name a little faster than you would like to see. For other people, it's always going to be the gun or the Q or whatever. Like, okay, these aren't name changes. Just you'll get used to it. Trust me, you'll get used to it. It's not something we
So
have to,
annoying.
it's not something we have to dwell on or
Yeah.
criticize every single time. But again, Dan's a guy that learned about being an overly involved owner, even though he's had to take more of a step back than I think he wanted to. Excuse me. When he was really involved in the LeBron thing the first time,
Yeah.
I think he learned he's now put the right basketball people in place to run the franchise, and he's willing to put the money behind them. He's not the one that's calling all the shots or anything from behind the scenes. He's letting them do their job and telling them whatever you need to make us a winner again, we are going to do that. And that's what he's allowing Kobe Altman to do. That is, Chris Antonetti with the Guardians is, he's not given all the resources like the Cavs are given, but he is still put in place as a baseball person to run the baseball team and utilize his mind, his baseball acumen to continue to have the Guardians in contention, even if they decide to go young like they're going to this season. There are other owners in this town that continue to, I think, meddle or put the wrong people in place that where football is not the main focus like it's supposed to be or at the level that it should be. And that is what is so frustrating. WNBA is now coming. Cavs, expectations have risen for them coming into the second half. They start out with Brooklyn tomorrow night. Then they come home for New York Knicks. Then I think it's the Grizzlies come in on Sunday. Then you go to Boston next week. Like February is not going to be easy to get out of at all for this team. And they're going to have to show that they're not just a regular season team because now things ratcheted up. They know, everybody had a week to look, and Cavs are at the top of the East. 5.5, 6 games. Boston. Okay, what do we got to do? There's 28 games. There's plenty of time for us to get that number 1 seed. We know what it takes to win, and there's going to be more playoff-like atmospheres here in the second half. What do we need to do? The Cavs need to be ready with that target getting bigger and bigger on their backs. They can say all the right things, and they're saying all the right things, that they haven't won anything, and they're going to be judged in the playoffs. You're going to have to take these games in the regular season still seriously, so that mentality, the habits, the will to find a way to win games, even if you don't have your best on the night. If you can come out with a 1-point win, guess what? In the playoffs, that counts as 1 in the win column out of the 4 you need in the series. Doesn't matter how you get it. You're not getting style points. It's not college rankings or anything like that. Win games and continue to practice good habits and add on the defensive end. You brought in a defensive stopper in DeAndre Hunter. So now fix him and add in Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, guys like that coming off of injury. And I fully trust that they're going to do so.
Yeah.
I'd love to see an NWSL team here. I know we didn't get that in the last banking for that, but women's sports on the rise, and it's good to see the return of the Rockers because it's good things happening to the city and the sports town that we love.
Definitely.
The Crunch are on a roll too, and I don't know that enough people are taking notice of that. Look, it is not easy to face a team 3 straight weeks, let alone 3 times in a season.
Right.
And the fact that each game, Ryan, I know you're not a big fan of soccer, but you're starting to take notice of the Crunch, and I'm glad that this platform has done that. And if we can reach 1, we can reach more than that. But I want to run down what just happened with the Crunch in these last 3 games and have you kind of genuinely react to it as someone that's not into soccer. So you have 2 teams that are very evenly matched, 2 of the best teams in MLIS. They are going back and forth in all 3 games. In the fourth quarter, one team has been down by 3 goals. Now, it's not always a big lead in indoor because you have the walls, it bounces weird, but again, that can all by trying to add an extra attacker out there like you do in hockey and all of that. Like sometimes that can go against you because you push so many people forward, one win of the ball and a kick down to the other side. Now you got that open goal that you see a lot of times really crushes the spirit of any sort of comeback. All 3 games, one team had a 3-goal deficit. They come back to tie it. And then they go to overtime. In the first game, you go to an overtime. You go through 10 minutes of overtime. Nobody scores in sudden death. And you go to a shootout of 3 players aside, not 5 like outdoor. You go to 3 players aside. And Toronto comes out with the win by getting the last kick. They were second in line to take theirs. They got one stop that they needed from their goalkeeper. And their last guy hit the kick to win the game. Next week, you go to Toronto. Crunch now are the team that's down 7-4. Omar Najjar, who we had as a guest last week, scores 2 of the 3. They tie it up. Brian Kern gets the game winner late in overtime. So now these 2 teams have basically played 10 quarters of soccer and definitely well over 2 hours of soccer between 2 weeks. You come home the next week. Both teams are missing some players due to injury. New guys have to step up. Cruncher down 7-4. They come back to tie, take the lead, make it 8-7. Then with 3 minutes left, Toronto ties it up 8-8. You go into overtime. No one scores. So now you've played 15 quarters plus a shootout. Now you got to go to another shootout. Mario Musa comes up with 3 big penalty kick saves. Captain Dave Jordan and Mikey Darius hit their penalty kicks. Cruncher win, and they go 2-1 against the Canadian Crusaders through 15 quarters and 2 shootouts. Teams separated by 1 goal at a time. Crunch with the 2-goal edge by winning 8-7 and 9-8 in those last 2 weeks. Like that is the type of action that you get. And no matter if the Crunch win or lose, you see it on the stream every single time. Peter and his crew does a great job of showing this. They let the fans come out, the kids come out, get all the autographs and play with the kids on the field. They're giving them advice. They're kind of coaching them up. It is one of the best atmospheres and best things that I don't think is being taken notice enough. Just hearing all of that, what strikes you there?
So I actually I was actually following and watching along, and not watching along, just the stats or the tweets they're sending out and stuff. And it's crazy. That was just for the game 3. It's remarkable that they did 3 games in a row against the second best team, Toronto. They're really good. They've only lost to, I think, Cleveland, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2 games down just to Cleveland, and just what a battle. That's fun. That's putting a good product on the field. I mean, the old guys, like you said, and the young guys like Omar, all of them meshing together, and just that's really, really cool effort. And now they play Red Cedar next game. They in Red Cedar they beat week 1 and week 2, 24-2 and 15-1 the second game.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm starting a little bit.
Over here, Peter.
A little bit. So yeah, and I mean they're gonna beat them at Red Cedar's 7. I'm excited. I'm looking forward. Is there a way to watch them, actually? I have never – I would like to –
So if you go to theclevelandcrunch.com, that's where you can get the link to the tickets, which I think are through what is called Tixer. But there, again, the link, you just go to theclevelandcrunch.com. If you go to clevelandcrunch.com, you're not going to get to the site. You got to do theclevelandcrunch.com.
Got it.
You'll get there's a place for tickets. And then also when they're on the road, or if you can't get tickets to a home game, there is, if it's on your phone, you go up in the upper right-hand corner, there's always like those 3 bars for your menu. Okay. You'll find Watch Live. Sweet. Or if you're on your computer, you'll see across the top there, one of those options is Watch Live.
Okay.
You have the link to watch the game of that day, of that weekend, or once it's uploaded, either 24 to 48 hours later, there's also a link to watch old streams of other seasons.
I'm going to check them out.
Yep.
They play Saturday at 5:30.
Yep. Saturday at 5:30. You can also go to MLISpro.com, and they have the link to all the different games going on. So if you want to switch around, I kind of did that on Sunday for a little bit while I was cleaning up the house. So it was actually kind of cool to see what was going on, the different atmospheres, the different ways that people do the stream and bring in fans to all these arenas. And the semifinals and finals will be right here in Cleveland at Cleveland
Sweet.
State. And,
Yeah.
and the women's final will be here in Cleveland as well. The
Wow.
women's league final will be here in Cleveland as well, as they start to build that league. Just enough teams to just have the top two face off in the championship game for that. We said we would go shorter tonight, but hey, I mean, we got to talk about a great organization, the Cavs. We didn't even really touch on the Guardians. They just started spring training. Shane Bieber thrown off the mound in a bullpen. They've had it like what I love. Before we do go, what I love about that is you heard from Chris Antonetti, Andre not reporting on it, Mike Chernoff, other people like Stephen Vogt saying we had to pull him back because he was throwing even faster than he thought he was going to in that kind of setting. Like, you love to see that he's ahead, but this team cares so much about him, and that's why he signed for less money, less years than he was getting offered other places to stay in this organization, and why Jose Ramirez decided to sign the way that he did. I know that they haven't, it doesn't feel like they've improved since the Andres Jimenez trade and haven't really brought in players. They've kind of taken those flyers on pitchers that seem to work out more often than they don't.
I'm excited to see that
for the Guardians.
A lot of guys who I think, they're saying, hey, compete, figure it out. And I think that's really cool. And
there's going to be guys that step up and look at first base. You're not going to replace, 30 home runs and over 100 RBIs from Josh Naylor. And I don't know that even the combined stats of whoever plays there this year is going to even equal that.
Santana might, right?
Santana would probably start, and I'm sure Manzardo is going to get a chance there. John Kenzie Noel might play there, but he's in line to get the start out in right field. Chase DeLauder is going to get a lot of chances in spring training.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of young guys, some battles, and
guys are going to have to step up. But there is a hunger that you feel coming from these guys saying, look, we feel like we did get better, and and I think it was Lane Thomas, and Andre Knott was telling the story very recently. He said, just getting out there and talking to a guy like Lane Thomas that comes from a Cardinals organization, which is great, and has been in other organizations in Major League Baseball. It's kind of like the Cardinals, where these young guys aren't just young guys in your organization. Like, when they are brought up because you expect them, and they are expected to help you win with the talent that they have. And they are expected to be big leaguers from the point that they get up there. And if they have to take a step down like Manzardo did last year, come back up and have success going into the playoffs, Brian Rocchio, hopefully he learned something from his playoff experience last year.
For sure.
But second base, first base, right field, those are going to be three of the question marks. And look, you're not going to replace Josh Naylor, but if you won a game 8-4 last year and you win that type of game 5-4 because you're not getting as many run production, guess what? It's still a win, and
it's still baseball. And one thing I've learned, you can never count them out, no matter what.
I know.
So I mean, we might not have Josh Naylor hitting 30 home runs, but we're gonna have some young guy just cracking the bat because that's what he's supposed to do, man. So.
Yeah, and it's just continuing to roll that train, and the mentality stays the same. You come to the ballpark, and they're gonna start this mentality this Saturday when they face off against the Reds in spring training. You come to the ballpark that day to win.
Yeah.
And I know spring training, it doesn't officially count. You're trying to earn a job, and your job is to win. And if you start those habits from day one, by day 162, 180, whatever it is at the end of the year, those habits are putting you in a position to be successful and vie for a championship. The people that I took the wrong approach to this. There were people on the same network on Big Play that said that they were going out to spring training to kind of cover it and be fans. I beg you as a friend, do not boo Terry Francona. I try not to tell people how to fan, but what that man has done for the game of baseball and what he did for baseball here in Cleveland should not go unnoticed, unrecognized, just because he's on the other side. Yes, we want the Guardians to beat the Reds when they face off, especially in the regular season. If it ever came down to a World Series, you would root for the Guardians to win. I'm rooting for the Guardians to win. I am never rooting against or booing Terry Francona ever in my life. If you choose to do that, that's your choice. That's for you. Not tell you not to do it or that you can't do it. I'm just begging you, please do not go through with that plan to boo Terry Francona. This is disrespectful and just dishonors what he did here in Cleveland.
Yeah. I'm indifferent. I mean, I for one want to do it. I've of course appreciate what he's done in Cleveland and stuff. And he retired, took a year off, and then was offered a job from plays close. I mean, why not? Why not? I feel like the Guardians are ready to move on in a different direction anyway with the young guys. They wanted a younger general manager. It was a very amicable, I can't say it, very clean split, and I have no animosity towards them whatsoever, but I want to be booing them. I think it's a little childish, but if you want to, it is.
Yeah, it's your prerogative.
Right.
I'm not telling you you're not allowed to do it. I'm just asking people not to do it. That's all I can do. I'm not fighting a battle for Terry Francona. I'm not, I know that he's not going to care if people do it or whatever. He is one of the great baseball minds. All he's going to be focused on is his team winning that day, wherever he goes, and especially when he comes back to Cleveland to face off in the Ohio Cup. Is just as an absolute baseball lover and a lover of baseball here in town, and what my grandfather taught me and how to act and understanding what a guy has done for your organization when he does move on. Francona knew it was time for a new voice. He took a year off. He felt that itch, that energy to still be a manager. We got a chance to see his grandkids, his kids. He still has plenty of ways to see them. He chose to come back. The Reds gave him that opportunity. Congratulations to Terry Francona. And I hope the Guardians win the Ohio Cup this year and they go on to win big things this year. But I wish nothing but the best for Terry Francona in most and all situations. For Ryan Mosser, Peter Tulip, our producer extraordinaire, for our great friends over at Greeny Sports Cards, reach out to them, greenysportscards.com. Get all the information on their shows. April is going to be a big month for them. Might be some remote opportunities to come see your buddies here with the Voice of the Land. Again, thank you to the Big Play Network for allowing us to be a part of the family. I'm Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you sports fans out there, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. We truly love you all, 3,000. Don't talk about it, be about it.
Go check out our Greeny Sports Card giveaway on our Twitter right now, pinned. You get an opportunity to win a Darius Garland Perfect 10 Prism card, rookie card. Really cool.
And we'll keep
courtesy of Greeny. So
we'll keep retweeting that and live life all gas, no breaks. We'll be with you next time right here Wednesday nights at 8:00 right here on the Voice of the Land on the Big Play Network and audio on the Be On Air podcast network.